Hello and welcome to the Green Profit Academy Pros Podcast. This show digs into the challenges in growing a lawn care and landscape business while maximizing your profit. I'm Christeen
And I'm Steve Bousquet. We are the green industry experts in profit, growth, and leadership. Good afternoon, Christeen. How are you today?
Doing good. How about yourself? What's happening up there in the northeast part of the states?
I'm good. Up in Connecticut, New England, we're having a nice New England spring day. It's in the low 70s. The sun is out, and it's amazing the energy and attitude that people have in a positive way when we have a little sunshine.
Yeah, it definitely changes my mood, especially if I could be outside soaking up a little sun. And yeah, it's nice. Puts a little smile on your face real quick.
Absolutely. Today's episode, we're going to do a deep dive into discovering your ideal customer and cultivating your business sweet spot. And at the end, we're going to be offering a special giveaway at the end of the podcast, so be sure to listen all the way through. So today's overview is exploring the secrets of the business success, starting with the fundamental concept of the business sweet spot and how identifying your customer is the key to unlocking your potential. And Christeen is a pumpkin plan strategist extraordinaire. And like everything else she does, she brings it to another level. And it is Pumpkin Plan Month. So Christeen, start us off.
Yeah, and this is a really big topic. So just to give you all a heads up, we are breaking this up into 2 episodes for you because there's a lot to cover, and it's very valuable information because this can change your business. I know it has changed Steve's business, which I'm sure he'll share on that today as well. So let's get started in, what is the concept of the pumpkin plan, right? And so Mike Michalowicz wrote the Pumpkin Plan. I'm sure most of our readers have read the book. And if you have not done that yet, I highly, highly suggest the Audible book of Pumpkin Plan. And if you've listened to Mike Michalowicz before in his audiobooks, he is one of the best narrators of his own books. He brings lots of fun into them. They're very easy to listen to. They're absolutely one of my favorite audiobooks to listen to. So pick up your Audible copy of the Pumpkin Plan today and get listening if you haven't. If you listen to the old version, get the new version and listen to that. So there's a lot to take away from it. So what is the concept of the Pumpkin Plan? So Mike Michalowicz shares this in his book. And as he was researching, in this concept of how do we grow a business, right? Like what are some of the key strategies, which is what the Pumpkin Plan is about. It's, really looking at, what your price seed is in your business. And he uses this analogy from pumpkin farmers, which is why it's called the Pumpkin Plan. So it's a pretty simple strategy. There's several steps to it. But the whole purpose is to grow a remarkable business in any field. So it doesn't matter if you're in trades or, if you're in health or accounting, it doesn't matter what field, you can apply these strategies to your business and they work. I have found, though, that there are strategies that you can bring into pumpkin planning that are very industry specific, and they work on industry specific businesses. So if you are looking for a strategist, look for someone who works in your industry for sure.
Yeah, interesting how I got turned on to the Pumpkin Plan. So I was delayed on a flight in Philadelphia. We were going to Mexico. And my friend sends me a text. Have you ever heard of this Pumpkin Plan? I thought he was kidding at first. Pumpkin Plan book? It's a business book? Like, what does that even mean? So I trust him. He has good taste in business books. So I downloaded the book at the Philadelphia airport on my iPad. And this was like 2015. and I read, or 14. So when I was in Mexico, I read the whole book. I was so excited to go back and start implementing the pumpkin plan. And there was a woman named Donna in the book who is not the Donna Lyons that is now runs Pumpkin Plan Your Biz and coaches the Pumpkin Plan Strategist. But it was interesting that the person who ran that ended up having the name Donna, and it really made a big impact on my business. But it was step by step. It wasn't like overnight, and it was kind of a try this, that worked, and we can keep going with this, but that didn't work. Let's not go there. But really, it started off by understanding the sweet spot and what the definition of the sweet spot was.
Yeah. And the concept that it comes from, just to circle back quickly, right, is if you're going to grow a prize-winning pumpkin, you don't start off with just, a pumpkin seed that you pick up at your, local nursery, right? So there's a process to it to where you want to start with a prize-winning seed. And if you just plant, an ordinary seed, it's not going to yield a giant pumpkin. Just like if you launch a business without a robust strategy, it won't produce extraordinary results, right? So it's like, do you want to just be average and see what you get? Or do you want to be intentional, know what you're starting with that special seed, and know what to invest and where to invest in it to grow this extraordinary business, so that colossal pumpkin, that colossal business.
So that's the whole thing, like focusing on what your giant pumpkin is. Maybe I was jumping the gun a little bit on the definition of the sweet spot, but like understanding we can't be all things to all customers, and we really have to kind of pay attention to the customers that are voting for us with their wallet. That's how Mike kind of quotes it, and understanding so it was like, at first I read that, I was like, oh, so we can only have a few clients. Okay, well, I can't do that with my model. So what we kind of figured out was we have a service that we offer or a product that we offer that became our giant pumpkin. This is the one thing that we do, and that one thing that we do better than anybody else in an industry was our giant pumpkin. Our giant pumpkin wasn't necessarily a customer, but our best customers buy our giant pumpkin.
Yeah. And that's a real easy way to think about it is, who are your biggest fans? Are they buying your services? And why are they buying your services? So let's start off with the sweet spot of the business, because I think this really ties into, ideal customers, why we want to focus on ideal customers, what's kind of the driving force behind it. So in the book, The Pumpkin Plan, Mike Michalowicz shares a diagram of the sweet spot. And it's 3 circles that overlap each other. And what the purpose is in the middle of the sweet spot is your business's value. So imagine 3 circles overlapping each other, and where they all 3 of them overlap is the value that your business brings. And this is where your passion is, your expertise, the customer demand overlay. So it really signifies the unique advantage that you have in the marketplace. So like Steve was saying, like, what's my giant pumpkin, right? It's like, what's the value that his company brought to the marketplace, and why are those people who constantly buying from him buy from him? So this is where the sweet spot comes in, is trying to bring these things together in your business. And those 3 circles represent your top customers. So those who are most loyal, profitable, very important, most loyal and profitable, and appreciative of what you offer. So they see you, they value you, and they pay you for what they see and they value. And then the next circle is your unique offering. So this is the distinct products or services that set you apart from your competition. So I know Steve has competition with his business and his area, and there's a reason why his customers come to him. So those top customers come to him because his company has something unique to offer that sets him apart. And then the next piece of this is your systems and processes. And these are the effective and scalable methods by which you actually deliver your offering. So as business owners, we'll get into our company, we'll develop a method on how we deliver our services and what that means. And then when we try to scale and grow, it's really hard because we do it our way. And then we want to pass that torch to the people that we hire to do it our way. So this is where those systems and processes come into place. If you want your new hires who's going to take over your role as you scale and grow your company, you need to have systems and processes to share, how it is that you do what you do, what the value it brings, making sure that how you do it and what you do produces that value. And it's also serving and making your top customers happy.
And the sweet spot comprising of the three critical components and the three circles, and they overlap, and in the center, it reveals your sweet spot, which is fun to draw. Because I was in the Pumpkin Plan movie, it's fun to draw while you're looking at the camera and you can't look at the dry erase board. I had to practice it about 30 or 40 times to be able to do that and have it look like something decent. But doing that exercise is completely worth it because, and you don't have to have the perfect, I didn't have to have the perfect answer the first time I did this exercise. It was like, well, what are our top clients? And then we look at the top clients and, okay, out of these top clients, who are the top clients of the top clients, right? And then what do they buy? And how are they the most profitable? And the unique offering, we're like, well, we're unique here. Well, how else are we unique? Well, let's ask our customers how we're unique. And the systems and processes that then, once we identify that, can support our top customers and our unique offering. And that is where the profitability in the company and the efficiency can even be scaled, because you're using resources, tools, technology, and people to only service that sweet spot, and the efficiency of the company just becomes incredible. The other thing that I found with the systems and processes and servicing the sweet spot is higher employee retention. So you have less team turnover because they're winning more often, and they feel the energy from winning by the customers, from your profit margins, and just the general energy in the company.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, right? That's I don't even think is really identified with the sweet spot diagram and setting your company up for colossal growth. Is it not only supports that colossal growth once you get it dialed in, but it also supports the overall profitability and the engagement, like you said, Steve, with your employees. Because if you have the right customers and they love you, and you have systems and processes that support the team's success, and you're doing something different than your competition, then it creates this different culture in your company where your team members, they love to show up for work. They love what they do. They love working with the customers. And then they also feel like they're a part of something really special because they can see the unique value and the uniqueness of how you do what you do in your business and what it brings, not just to your customers, but to the community. So if you've really got this dialed in, and I think this is why it was such a great idea to have your company in the Pumpkin Plan video, the video book, is because your business has grown to a point where it's impacting the community, and the community knows what your company brings to the table. It's not just about lawn and landscape. It's about the other things you guys do in the community. And there's this association with your team when they say, hey, I work for, your company. The community recognizes this. And it's something that your employees can be just as proud of to be a part of that as you are as a business owner.
Yeah, and that's really a great point about the community. And because, my belief is that if you have a community that has strong small businesses, you have a strong community, right? So the whole goal is to have strong, healthy small businesses in a community. That's why the pumpkin plan is so important. That's why profit first is so important, because that's how companies, grow and remain strong. Yeah, that it's a bigger part of the whole strategy that I'm sure Mike definitely had the concept of, but it's really amazing to see it in a live circumstance, and it's something that is sustainable.
Yeah. And I think too, like it brings it the concept of the pumpkin plan and what that produces comes full circle with his newest book, All In, which I love that book too, which is really about, engaged employees working in the company that contribute to the profitability and the value that it brings. So the importance of the sweet spot is to serve the prize winning seed in your business, which is your business strategy. So you're really it's simplifying, looking at these three different areas and being able to measure where your company is in these three different areas. And it identifies, okay, if you're not there, what's missing? So you can get those all dialed in and tighten it up. And that's, what we're going to dive into a little bit more. So part of this is the ideal customer profile. And I think this is an area where when we start diving into the pumpkin plan, business owners struggle with, because before they do the ideal customer assessment, which is a pumpkin plan tool, they have this idea of who their ideal customers are. And then once they're done with the assessment, they typically find out that maybe one or two of those customers that they had in mind made the cut, but the ones that they thought were the cream of the crop didn't make the cut. And the assessment helps them understand why they didn't make the cut. Core Growth Strategies provides business growth management solutions through cloud accounting, bookkeeping, and strategic business consulting programs. Our team works with small businesses in lawn care and landscape and trade industries throughout the U.S. We increase our clients' business acumen by creating business performance transparency through financials and strategic advisement based on industry best practices and benchmarks. Our experienced team provides support, guidance, and coaching, thereby allowing our clients to connect with viable data and discover their own solutions. Core Growth Strategies programs and services are designed to get your business from where it is now to where you have always dreamed it to be. Visit us today at coregrowthstrategies.com and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Don't miss our exclusive limited time podcast special. Just mention promo code GPA Pro to any member of our team during your complimentary consultation, or enter the promo code on our site when you sign up for one of our online programs. That's promo code GPA Pro. So I want to just kind of talk about what's the characteristics of an ideal customer. And your ideal customer is going to align with your values. So that's number one. They benefit from your offering. So what they see that you bring to the table and what you deliver to them is highly beneficial to them and contributes to something in their life that matters to them, right? It could solve a problem for lawn and landscape. It can really make, their home beautiful and enjoyable to where they don't have to worry about it. That can be something that's highly valued and they're benefiting from it. Another thing is they're willing to pay. They're willing to pay for that service at the price that you were providing it for, because they see the value. And also their values align with yours. They're loyal. So even if they have an opportunity to leave, they won't. They're going to continue to work with you. And they provide constructive feedback. So they're not the people who call up and they chirp and they complain. They tell you, hey, I really like when this happens, or we had somebody come service our property and they didn't close the gate or they didn't do this. There isn't this blame. They're saying, hey, this could have been done better, or we'd really like it if.
Yeah, and identifying the ideal customer is the wallet, right? Voting with the wallet, who spends the most, who pays on time. It can also include giving referrals. Like, still, the biggest way we get new customers is through referrals, and we really identify who's giving us the most referrals. And we give $50 for every new customer that we get from a referral. We give that to the person that referred. But if you do multiples, and you get more gifts, you get chocolates, you get other gifts, you might get flowers and multitude of things, and you get identified as one of our ambassadors if you do more than two. So, that referral is the complaints, like Christine said, about instead of just blowing up and what's wrong with you and I've never and da da da. They're like, hey, this is what happened. Let's fix it. Let's move on. And they work with you, because no matter who you hire, there's just going to always, if you're working with people long enough, there's always going to be something that didn't go perfect. And aligning with the values, like being respectful, being polite, being on time, being honest, so if they align with your immutable laws, they're way easier to work with, and one of the values in our purpose mission so we have our mission, and then our vision and our purpose. In our purpose statement, it is to be mutually fulfilling. So, we want the customers' lives and properties to be better. But we also want the company to be better by working with them, and the community to be better by us both working together. So that's where that mutually fulfilling comes. It's not mutually beneficial where they win, we win. It's really, we need to all become more. And, that's hard for some clients who just think everything's a transaction. We're not looking for that. We're working at their house. This is where they live, right? Their spouse, their wife, their husband, their kids, their pets, their dogs are out in these yards, these cats. So it's an intimate space, and it needs to be more than just transactional.
Yeah. And I think that that's a really important point, right? Is that when you're doing your day-to-day business and you feel like you're just, going out there and you're just doing a job and you're putting in the time and then you're collecting the money for it, and there isn't something that fills your cup, it's not something that's driving you. It's like, it's not creating that feel good, where you leave work and you're like, this was a really great day. So that's when you know that you're not dialed into your sweet spot of your business and there's something missing. So if your services become transactional, there is something missing and you're not dialed into your sweet spot. And, and I think that your purpose, Steve, from that you shared, it really kind of takes it off the table of the relationship being transactional. So out the gate, you guys are already setting that intention and providing that guidance for not only your clients, but your team to say, hey, this is a mutual relationship. It's not we win or you win or we both win, but it's, you guys enjoying each other, you guys enjoying the service you're providing, and your clients being very proud and enjoying working with your company as well.
Yeah, it definitely takes it off the table right away. And but some people love that. Like, it's not for everybody. We're not for everybody, right? We're only for our giant pumpkins. Some people don't understand that and don't care about it, and they're not our clients. And other people absolutely love it, that, we care. And my team, I could go on for hours about the stories of how my team reached out to customers to check in on them, to take care of them, to help them do things. And then same thing with customers, giving tips and gifts and calling in to check on people. Did they have the baby? How was the wedding? Stopping in just to say hello. It's a big part of who we are. And so I think, especially, all business is small business, and because it's all about people. So I think that's a really great place to be able to have a business in a community. And, most of the people who are listening to this podcast, our regular listeners, I've probably met or talked to at some point, and they're the same way. I mean, they're a big part of their community. and bigger than they realize. And people, really count on them and depend on them.
Yeah, it is a game changer for sure when you start, it is, if you want to build a business like this, which I would have to say it makes it so much easier to do business when you build it with purpose and you build it with passion and, you're serving the people you want to serve. So I want to dive into how to identify your ideal customer. And then if you would, Steve, after we kind of outline, like, how do you identify it? If you can share how you guys identified yours and what you learned, because you guys went through this process of figuring out who are they and what do they look like. So one of the first things that you want to consider is demographic data. And what that means is we're looking at age. So, what age group are you serving? So that could be relative. Also, it could be gender, depending on your business model, like who are you serving? So let's say if you're salon, you probably mostly are serving women, versus men, depending on, do you focus on women clientele or men? You could also identify, like, who is the person you're dealing with in the household? Is it male or female? You want to look at their income. So, what income range are they in? You could also consider some things like their education, what type of job they have, are they, and when I say job they have, are they self-employed as well? Do they own maybe their own private practice and they're a doctor or a dentist or an attorney? So are they like a high level, professional? Also, or are they just kind of like, the day-to-day kind of office workers or, something like that, to where that's the job that they have. They don't have time. They're busy. You want to look at their marital status. So are they married? Are they single? Is that serving a reason why they're coming to you? And also their family size. And these are just some important factors to consider when you're looking at the demographic data. So this can tell you a lot. And we've come to learn over time that, when somebody sits down and they want to have a consultation call with us, and we have some information, we already kind of know, are they fitting our ideal customer profile, right? Like, how long have they been in business? How much effort has they put into their business? Where are they located? What's their business model? So we're looking at some things about them. The other thing is psychographic data. So this could be, their personality traits, their values, their lifestyle, attitudes, their interest and hobbies. So these are all factors to identify. We had a client that, because of their multiple locations, they realized in one location, they kind of had that retired military family, that they would serve. So they had that client. And then they had another client in another area that was more just kind of like the down to earth, country type person who kind of went with the flow. And, they just love to live healthy and happy. And so that was, their client, a different area. So this is where like personality traits come into play, is knowing who, what are their interests and, their hobbies or their attitudes and lifestyles that will help you get dialed in. The next is behavioral data. So what's their purchase history, frequency of purchases, buying behaviors, and patterns. So these are all important to consider. Are they someone where you just show up and you say, hey, this is what they offer? And they say, hey, I want the best. I want the best of the best. And then they call you back and they say, hey, Jan, I want my patio redone and I want your best guy out here. So are they those guys? Or are they the guys that go, well, let me call you back after I check 5 other places, so you want to consider that. Some of the other things that's important to look at is pain points and challenges. So understanding your ideal customer's challenges and pain points can help you tailor your marketing message and really speak to them as you're speaking to them directly, and making sure that your offer aligns with what problem you're trying to solve for them. So like in, Steve's case, they do lawn care, they're going out there and making sure that they're, yard is beautiful, there's no weeds, their family can enjoy it, things like that. Some few other things that is communication channels. So knowing like, where does your ideal customer show up? How do they find you? This is why it's important to set up marketing campaigns that give you information back and you can track your return on investment. And, then making sure that you have tools to identify these. So utilizing customer data and analytics in your market to pinpoint those, markets. So is it an area that they live in? So you can be intentional to market to that area or that location. So Steve, I know you went through this process in your company. You did a pretty good deep dive. And after you got all this information together, you guys analyzed it as well. So I think it would be a great opportunity for you to share what you found when you dug into identifying your ideal customer.
So we did a pretty deep dive, right? And we did the basics, like, okay, we did how much do they spend? So what's the top? We were focusing on the top 20%, right? So what does the top 20% spend? How big is their yard? What is the age bracket that they're in? Like, what's the average price of the home? What's the income? And it was interesting. So income is difficult because some people have money, but not income. Especially if they're retired, they might not be in the top income tier, but they have a large amount of assets. But one of the biggest takeaways that we found, and then we're like, well, where do they live? And one of the things that we found was, 65% of our customers live on cul-de-sacs, right? So they're single family homes, they're on cul-de-sacs. They're between the ages of probably, I think it was like 45 and 65. So we could really dial in. And I had spent years, so we would have cul-de-sacs with customers, cul-de-sacs, and then we would have this drive time between cul-de-sacs. So I spent years marketing to the people between, and we were not really building the business. It was like a slow crawl. So once I figured out how to market the cul-de-sacs where our customers are already on, then that really changed the growth of the company, because now we're getting it in front of the people. But it wasn't just sending out a postcard. There's other ways to market to those people. It's getting, just being out there and having a really good reputation, but also having the relationship with our current customers and getting the referrals, because if they trust you and they trust us, then you're going to get the referrals. So just sending more postcards wasn't the key. It was really having that mutually fulfilling relationship with our clients and getting the referrals, because half of the customers are still coming from referrals. So that was kind of some of the things that we did, but also on a kind of how it led to, production side was, what do we do really good at that people tell other people about? And how do we get that out in front of people? And one of the big things when we talked to these people was communication. One of the things that our top pumpkins loved about our company, even though we do lawn care, it was that they could call the office. There was somebody to talk to. We would come out and look at the lawns. The techs, even though the techs were not lawn experts and we didn't want them doing lawn, detective, they would say, hey, this is what I think it is. I'm going to let the office know. Somebody from the office will contact you. And then we could send somebody that had the time, because we didn't want our techs. We need them to do production, to stay on schedule, to service our clients. But we have other people that can go out and look at the lawn. So communication kept coming up over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, it was just every single interview that we did, communication was definitely our unique offering.
Yeah. And that makes sense, because if you live in a tight-knit community, the more transparent you are and the more communicative you are, you're connecting with those people and you're saying, hey, you matter to us. And that makes a huge difference. So being able to identify that and really dial in your marketing for people that resonates with is a huge difference. And I know that from you discovering this, you saved quite a bit on your marketing.
Oh yeah, we cut our marketing in half, and we're getting better results. And we just really dialed into connecting to our customers and focusing on the cul-de-sac. So the cul-de-sacs have little communities, cul-de-sac communities, and there's different parts of the cul-de-sac that are highly probable that are going to buy from you, and there's parts of a cul-de-sac that are the least likely to buy from you. We even identified which part of the cul-de-sac was most likely to buy. That's how dialed in that we got it. And I talked about employee retention, team retention, and it's kind of that, like, we send the same texts on the same routes as best as we can. And a lot of the people, they don't even know the contract they signed. They signed the contract, they pay, but they're like, oh, Max is coming to do my lawn. That's what I know. Or Steve Kaiser, he's coming to do my lawn. He's their lawn care guy. And then, so when they're giving a referral, they're giving the company a referral, but really they're saying, hey, I'm referring Steve Kaiser. I'm referring Max. And that's what we found when we dialed into that kind of connection with people, is why we get so many referrals from our existing customers. It's not the company, it's the people in the company.
Yeah, that's amazing. And again, it's like that pumpkin plan strategy contributed to building that culture, not just with your team members, but with your customers.
Yeah. It's friends telling other friends about their friends.
Yeah. All right. So that's going to conclude part 1 of our pumpkin plan conversation. And we will be back next week. We're going to dive into the value of working with your ideal customers and continue to unpack the sweet spot strategy for your business.
We look forward to you joining us on the next podcast. Thanks for listening to the Green Profit Academy Pros Podcast,
the show that digs into the challenges of growing a lawn care and landscape business while maximizing your profit.